Okay. Good evening all of you. Very nice to be with you again and bringing for you the second discussion on economic survey today, on budget today. So what we will do is we will go on from where we stopped yesterday. Good evening everyone joining me. Thank you for being here. Yeah, the Hindu will always justify K-shaped recovery, Kirti. But as I said, we will need more evidence than normal, Yeah, I'll be taking a class on economic survey also, Palash. Good evening, all of you joining me now. Great to see you all. Lots of love to you too, Ritikesh. Good to see you here in a live session. Good evening, all of you. So, perfect. Let's see this then. So, what we will do is, today we will again do an assessment of how budget will be affecting different sectors in the economy. एक assessment करेंगे कि अलग-अलग, जैसे कल हमने infrastructure का किया, और देखेंगे कि बजट कैसे डिफरेंट सेक्टर्स इन द इकोनॉमी को अफेक्ट करेगा. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के असेसमेंट में एक और बात मैं चाहता हूं आप समझ के रखो. इन द असेसमेंट ऑन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देयर इज वन मोर टॉक दैट इज हैपनिंग इन द बजट व्हिच आई नीड यू टू कीप इन माइंड. गुड इवनिंग ऑल ऑफ यू जॉइनिंग मी. सो नाइस दैट ऑल ऑफ यू आर हियर. So it's always good to see you all. So when we look at infrastructure, there is one more concept, that when it comes to financing of infrastructure, we need to understand, that the financing of infrastructure is going to be the financing of infrastructure, and that is something that we need to keep in mind. A new change has been brought in this year's budget. The government has said that bank guarantee, this is financing of infrastructure projects of course, that bank guarantee can be replaced or substituted by surety bonds. The bank guarantee will be substituted by surety bonds. So that is another thing that we have talked about in case of infrastructure, that it will be replaced by surety bonds. Good evening all of you joining me now. Jai Hind and good evening to everyone. Wonderful to see you. So when you look at this surety bond structure, जब आप ये शब्द देखते हो, surety bond, ये एक नई बात लाए हैं सरकार इस बार के बजट में, और इसकी डिमांड बड़े दिनों से थी. Since quite some time it was heavily in demand that we should have a surety bond, for quite some time. In fact, I'll tell you why that was so. So see, bank guarantee means जब एक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट डेवलप होता है, सपोज करो एक रोड प्रोजेक्ट है, और सपोज करो इस रोड प्रोजेक्ट जो है ये 100 करोड़ रुपए का है. There is a road project of 100 crore rupees. So when a project gets developed, say a road project gets developed for say 100 crore rupees, then in case of bank guarantee system, when you are going for a bank guarantee system, the idea is, if by any reason you are unable to complete the project, then that bank guarantee can be invoked by the government. अगर मान लो मैं 100 करोड़ का रोड प्रोजेक्ट डेवलप कर रहा हूं, किसी कारण से मैं उस प्रोजेक्ट को बीच में छोड़ता हूं या काम टाइम से पूरा करके नहीं देता, तो जो बैंक गारंटी मैंने सबमिट कर रखी है सरकार के पास, सरकार उसको भुना सकती है, उसको पैसे में कन्वर्ट करा सकती है अपना नुकसान पूरा करने के लिए. तो ये एक तरह की गारंटी होती है जो बैंक देता है कि अगर ये प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ तो आपके नुकसान की भरपाई इस बैंक गारंटी के थ्रू की जाएगी. There is the basic idea of bank guarantee is that it's kind of a guarantee given by the bank in terms of monetary value, that if by chance something wrong goes with the project and the government makes a loss in the process, then the bank will fulfill the obligation on behalf of the contractor. That is the bank guarantee idea. Now, when you look at the point across, a point across, it implied that you can have bank guarantee developed. Now the problem with bank guarantee was it needs collateral, that is security, to be submitted by private contractor with the bank. It needs collateral or security to be submitted by private contractor with the bank. And many small firms, new firms, were unable to generate such high level of security. छोटे फर्म्स या नए फर्म्स, उनके लिए पॉसिबल नहीं हो पाता था कि वो जितनी सिक्योरिटी बैंक डिमांड करता था, कोलैटरल बैंक डिमांड करता था, वो ला के दे पाते. सो दिस रिजल्टेड इन डिस्करेजिंग स्मॉल फर्म्स और न्यू फर्म्स, स्मॉल and new firms from participating in such projects of the government. That is one problem of bank guarantee, that the new firms or the small firms, the startups, they did not participate in the projects issued by the government. So this was one problem of bank guarantee. The other problem that we see of bank guarantee, was, if I can put it across, the other problem of bank guarantee was it tied up 8% to 10% of project cost, with the bank. ये दूसरी प्रॉब्लम थी बैंक गारंटी की, कि वो बैंक के साथ 8 to 10% ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट कॉस्ट टाई कर देता था, कि अगर आपके प्रोजेक्ट मान लो आपका प्रोजेक्ट 1 लाख करोड़ का है, तो आपके 8,000 करोड़ 10,000 करोड़ रुपए तो बैंक गारंटी के चक्कर में ही फंस गए. So if you have a project of 1 lakh crore, then 8,000 to 10,000 crore rupees you are losing because of bank guarantee only. So this became one problem, that 8 to 10% of project cost got stuck up with the bank because of the surety and all that you had to give. तो बैंक जो श्योरिटी आपसे डिमांड करता था, सिक्योरिटी आपसे डिमांड करता था, उसके वजह से आपके प्रोजेक्ट का 8 से 10% कॉस्ट बैंक के पास रह जाता था. सो द कंपनीज हैड अनदर प्रॉब्लम, दैट 8 to 10% of the project cost got tied up with the banks. That meant that they had to complete the project with the rest 80%, 85%, 90% of the expenditure. So that made them again a little slow with respect to completion of the project and movement on it. So these are the two major issues of bank guarantee. तो बैंक गारंटी के मेजर इश्यूज ये रहते थे, ये दो प्रॉब्लम्स थे बैंक गारंटी के, जिसके वजह से सारे लोग, the project developers, people in the expert group, everybody was suggesting that we can think about replacing bank guarantee by a surety bond. Now, good evening, all of you joining me. No, James Bond, bank guarantee is not like VGF. It is not like VGF. Thank you, Samir. Thank you for joining. Thank you all for coming in. Correct, Ayushi? आज के था Indian Express में. Correct. So yes, economic survey will also be done. Don't worry. I will be doing it. Yes, it is an extension, Shivani. You are right. It is an extension. Okay. So coming back to the talk again. So bank guarantee, remember, had these two issues covering for itself. So the government said, let's bring in a surety bond. That is what the government said. Let's bring in a surety bond. Now, how to go ahead with the surety bond? How to go ahead? How to go ahead with the surety bond? So the surety bond would mean surety bond, it is a bond that is a financial asset issued by an insurance firm, it is a bond issued by an insurance firm on behalf of the private firm or private project developer Of course, the private project developer has to pay a premium. So on payment of premium, so issued by the private firm or private project developer to the government, private project developer to the government, or to the entity giving contract, to the entity जो भी institution contract दे रहा है, giving contract, to provision them with insurance support, to provision them with insurance support in case of project failure. In case of project failure. And the biggest benefit is, जब आप इसके benefit की बात करते हो, the biggest benefit is it saves cost. Expected that around 8 lakh crore rupees will be saved in Indian context if we take the national infrastructure pipeline. Around 8 lakh crore rupees will be saved in India if we consider the national infrastructure pipeline. So given national infrastructure pipeline, उसमें अगर 100 करोड़ का प्रोजेक्ट आएगा, 111 लाख करोड़ का प्रोजेक्ट आएगा, तो करीब 8 लाख करोड़ तक की बचत हो जाएगी कंपनीज के लिए और गवर्नमेंट के लिए. And then it assures that in case anything goes wrong, the government will be also compensated. The problem right now is we will have to do several changes in the insurance system. We will have to classify which kind of bonds we are going to bring. Like there can be possibility of contract bond that based only on contract, or possibility of finishing bond कि time से खत्म हो उसके लिए, possibility of initiating bond time से शुरू हो उसके लिए. So what kind of bond, what kind of legalities, all that will mean an important thing there. And also the legal system will have to be developed to make sure that such bonds are actually assured and accepted by the system the way they are proposed. But it is a little too early to comment on them right now. But अभी तक के लिए बस इतना दिमाग में रख लो कि सरकार बैंक गारंटी क्यों लेती थी और बैंक गारंटी को श्योरिटी बॉन्ड से रिप्लेस करने का क्या ऑब्जेक्टिव है. That is all that you should keep in mind right now. Do not go into too many details of it. This much will be sufficient. Alright, this much will be sufficient. So that is one thing there where we are. Now I take you into other sectors of development so that we can have some better discussion on things like agriculture and all. Input tax credit is a different thing, Lucky. We are in a different talk right now. NIPL is National Infrastructure Pipeline. All right, now see this, when you look at this here, when you look at this here, no, you cannot insure the entire project, Nishant, that's not possible. Now see, when you look at the things here, the basic idea is that rather than invoking a bank guarantee which is costlier, rather than invoking a bank guarantee which can be time consuming and which takes the cost, a lot of value out of the project, surety bond is the idea of having lesser cost and making sure that the same level of insurance prevails on the development of the project. Okay, now I take you further. I will now talk to you about impact of budget, we will now discuss it about impact of budget on agriculture. Again in your mains exam, कभी कभी आप देखोगे मेंस एग्जाम में आपसे पूछेंगे, क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं that elaborate how budget of 22-23 can be beneficial to farming. अब अगर आपको कोई भी ये बोले, if somebody tells you नहीं बजट से सवाल नहीं आता यूपीएससी में, तो आप कुछ मत करना, पिछले 5 साल के पेपर को उठाना और 2 साल उन्होंने स्पेसिफिक, 1 साल तो पूछा व्हाट हैज बीन द स्टेप टेकन इन द बजट फॉर मेक इन इंडिया, और 1 साल पूछा दैट हाउ बजट हैज बीन हेल्पफुल इन डेवलपिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. सो never fall for a ploy when somebody tells you that budget से सवाल नहीं आएंगे डायरेक्टली और आपकी एनालिसिस वहां मैटर करती है, और वही एनालिसिस करने की हम लोग आज कोशिश कर रहे हैं. वी आर ट्राइंग टू डू दैट सेम एनालिसिस ओवर हियर. सो व्हेन वी से द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ बजट ऑन एग्रीकल्चर, we talk about elaboration of how budget can be beneficial to farming. So mainly again the steps that have been taken and their impact is what we will analyze. जैसे कल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के साथ कर रहे थे, अभी एग्रीकल्चर पे कहानी आगे बढ़ाते हैं, अभी गाड़ी को आगे बढ़ाते हैं, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से एग्रीकल्चर पे आते हैं. Now see, I hope you could hear me on surety bond and bank guarantee. All right. It is demanded by anyone who has the authority to give you the project. So obviously it will be government. Now see, I gave you the definition of bank guarantee. If you check the first slide that I taught you, I told you that is bank guarantee. Good evening all of you who are joining me now. Now see, when we take it further, in agriculture there are some typical steps that have been taken by the government. So some basic features if you see, for example, PM Kisan, there is a 68,000 crore rupees provision, in 2022-23. The provision in 2021-22 was around 67,500 crore. And this is the revised estimate. साल खत्म होने के बाद सरकार को जब पता चला कि इतने खर्चे एक्चुअली हुए, उसे कहते हैं revised estimate. And this is the budgetary estimate. साल शुरुआत होने पे जो आप estimate करते हो, इतना खर्चा करूंगा. So what you plan in the beginning of the year to spend on any activity is what we call budgetary estimate. And the way you spend it over the year and at the end of the year what you realize has to be the expenditure is what we call revised estimate. So the budgetary estimate for PM Kisan is 68,000 crore and the revised estimate was 67,500 crore. Now see, this is normal, this is expected. If we are going to give 6,000 rupees to all the farmers under Kisan Samman Nidhi, then obviously the number of farming households doesn't change much, so your budget doesn't need to change much. आपके जो फार्मिंग हाउस होल्ड्स हैं उनका नंबर तो बहुत ज्यादा अचानक नहीं बदल रहा, तो आपके बजट की वैल्यू भी अचानक नहीं बदलेगी. Another thing that the government has said that under MSP provision, the government has said around 2,46,000 crore is provisioned. Last year 2,37,000 crore was purchased from the farmers. But इसमें एक बात का ध्यान रखो, हर साल ये जो भी प्रोविजन होता है उससे 30-40 हजार करोड़ एक्स्ट्रा हो ही जाता है. Whatever is the provision under MSP, 30-40,000 crore extra is given to the farmers in the final domain. Similarly, on fertilizer subsidy, which is again meant for agriculture, the budgetary estimate is around 1,07,000 crore. कुछ अखबारों में ये 1,05,000 करोड़ लिखते हैं, लेकिन 2,000 करोड़ दे रहे हैं फर्टिलाइजर कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया को अलग से सरकार. तो एक्चुअली द बजटरी प्रोविजन इज 1,07,000 करोड़. while last year it was 1,39,000 crore. Again, तुम्हें ये numbers पूरे याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं. It is not needed that you mug up these numbers. For my analysis, I am using them. You don't need to mug these numbers up. तुम्हें ये रट के रखने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. मैं analytical purpose के लिए इनको तुम्हें सिखा रहा हूँ. And just few more things there on Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, PMFBY, the insurance program, Fasal Bima Yojana. This year the government is provisioning 15,500 crore, while last year it was 15,900 crore, and in 2019 it was 17,000 crore. Now this is something that we will discuss, that this is not a good thing, that the insurance per benefit to the agricultural sector is coming down. And similarly, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, per drop more crop, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, per drop more crop. Last year the provisioning was, this year the provisioning is around 12,700 crore, while last year the provisioning was around 12,100 crore. So again we have not, 12,400 crore. So again we have not changed this budget much. So if you look at agriculture, these are the major subsidy bills in agriculture and help in agriculture that we talk about. So if you look at the provisioning in agriculture, more or less the numbers are at last year, and the numbers have gone down on fertilizer subsidy. कुछ चीजें हैं जहां नंबर कम हो गया, वहां मैं लाल बत्ती लगा देता हूं कि ये नंबर कम हो गया. फसल बीमा योजना पे लाल बत्ती लग गई. और कृषि सिंचाई योजना इज लाइक अ येलो लाइट, ना बढ़ा ना कम हुआ. किसान योजना इज लाइक अ येलो लाइट. Provision for MSP is like a yellow light. So if you look at it, we have not seen any major increment on agriculture this year. इस साल हमने agriculture पे subsidy का कोई major increment नहीं देखा है. There is no major increment on subsidy on agriculture this year. More or less the same level of subsidies have been maintained. No major increment on subsidies in agriculture or agricultural program budget. More or less the same level of expenditure has been maintained. But there have been several announcements, that have been done for agriculture. काफी सारे announcements जरूर हुए हैं, जैसे talking about Kisan drone, talking about using, developing cane betwa project to irrigate for better irrigation facility, talking about natural farming, talking about expenditure with respect to developing contract farming. So there are several talks also talking about launching funds with blended capital of private sector to introduce agricultural technology on a larger scale. तो ऐसे कुछ 4-5 बातें हुई हैं जिनकी बात करते हैं एक एक करके. So when we look into this, let's try understanding one by one that why is this happening. First of all, तो पहले ये एनालाइज कर लेते हैं कि इन सब्सिडी का क्या मतलब है, और फिर बात करेंगे कि सरकार ने और क्या कहा है एग्रीकल्चर के लिए इस बजट में. तो एक इसकी एनालिसिस कर लेते हैं एक एक करके क्विकली, सो दैट यू कैन हैव सम बेटर आइडिया ऑन थिंग्स. सो पीएम किसान, it is normal because number of agricultural households will not change. तो आपने पैसा नहीं बढ़ाया और number of agricultural households नहीं बदलेंगे, तो फिर पीएम किसान का ये बजट कोई दिक्कत नहीं है उस हिसाब से. सब कुछ लोग एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे कि सरकार इस साल 6,000 से 9,000 कर देगी पैसा, या 12,000 कर देगी किसानों को खुश करने के लिए, इलेक्शन का टाइम आ रहा है. पर चलो वो अच्छा किया नहीं किया, क्योंकि पहले इसको ही एक स्टेबलाइज कर लें तो ज्यादा पैसे दें तो अलग बात है. Some people were expecting, I'm just repeating what I said in Hindi in English, that some people were expecting that this will be increased and doubled up or something, from 6,000 per annum to 12,000 per annum for farmers. But in a sense, government has not taken that bait because and people thought that there will be elections. So to please people, please the farmers, this step might be taken. But thankfully, the government wants the scheme to be stabilized, and they are not taking any extra provision of deliberately increasing it. So this is normal. The number of agricultural households are same. So we don't see any major increase over here. Regarding MSP provision, if we can again talk on that, so regarding MSP provision, the MSP provision 2,37,000 crore was 21-22 revised estimate, and 2,46,000 crore 22-23 they are giving a budgetary idea. Now again remember, this is quite fungible. It has been observed to increase, it has been observed that increase in MSP procurement leads to more than budgeted expenditure. ये past experience है हमारा कि सरकार जब देखती है ज्यादा खरीदना पड़ेगा तो ज्यादा खर्चे कर देती है. If the government sees there is more amount to be purchased, they spend more. But ideally, they should speak about it right in the beginning. So a better idea will be that budgetary estimate should be realistic, with less chance of deviation. It allows farmers to plan better. It allows farmers, क्यों आपको शुरू से ही हाई करके बताना चाहिए? Allows farmers to plan their crop better. Plan crop better. And it can be used as a tool for crop diversification. It can be used as a tool for crop diversification. Please keep these two things in mind. अगर सरकार शुरू से ही ये ज्यादा करके ही बता दे तो कोई हर्ज नहीं. If the government can give a realistic estimate here, जैसे अगर मैं आपको बताऊं, budgetary estimate in 2021-22 was only 1,94,000 crore. अब सोचो, पिछले साल सरकार ने कहा था कि इतना ही का खरीदेंगे, खरीदे इतना, तो ये शुरू से ही बता दें तो ज्यादा अच्छा होगा. ये पॉइंट मैं आपको बता रहा हूं. What I'm trying to teach you is, if right from in the beginning the government expresses a true value, something like 2,70,000 crore or 75,000 crore, in consultation with the state government, because state governments are also a part of procurement process, so the government has to decide on that in consultation with the state government. तो अगर वो कर लें, then in that case it allows farmers to plan their crop better. किसान को शुरू से ही पता होगा कौन सी फसल पे क्या MSP है, and it can be used as a tool for crop diversification. क्रॉप के डाइवर्सिटी में भी काम आएगा. आप ऑयल सीड पे ज्यादा दे दो MSP, आप pulses पे ज्यादा MSP दे दो. So if you give more MSP on oil seeds, pulses, etc., that will help more. Also, there is one more thing government could have done. The open procurement method in wheat and rice continues. ओपन प्रोक्योरमेंट का मतलब कि जितना भी व्हीट और राइस आप लाते हो, सरकार उसे खरीदने के लिए बाध्य है. द फूड कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया विल परचेज all the wheat and rice that you bring. On wheat and rice, there is open procurement, that is, government gives a guarantee that whatever the farmer or the trader will bring, the Food Corporation of India will buy it at the minimum support price. This same open procurement guarantee is not available on other crops. There we have closed procurement system where the government announces a limit and they don't buy beyond that, and that continues even now. It would have been a good reform if we could have made sure that either we remove this or we introduce open procurement on other crops. Now, going by the way agricultural system has gone in India in the last 1 year with all the protests by farmers, etc., I did not expect this to happen, but this is for your answer, that you can write in your answer that crop diversification can be done better only when open procurement method can also be controlled. तो तुम अपने आंसर राइटिंग में इसको यूज कर सकते हो कि ये एक स्ट्रक्चरल रिफॉर्म होगा एग्रीकल्चर में. That is important to keep in mind. Now see, when you look at it, subsidy is neither ideally to be increased, or decreased. उससे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. सब्सिडी आगे भी जा सकती है, पीछे बढ़ भी सकती है, कम भी हो सकती है. All right, the subsidy can either be increased or decreased. That is not a problem at all. It depends on what is the need, and what is the need for it. Now, when you look at it, this is one thing. So, MSP के अंदर ये बात कह सकते हो. All right, in MSP you can say that. Also, gradually you will have to make sure that there has to be some private procurement, because government will not have the storage capacity for all of it. So you need to develop the storage. But then under Agricultural Infrastructure Development Fund, the government has talked about it. So this is on MSP provision that you should keep in mind, that is the analysis on subsidy under MSP and so on. अगर आपसे कोई MSP की बात करें तो आपके ये suggestions होंगे कि क्या better हो सकता है, क्या बेहतर होगा, और ये बात करोगे कि सरकार ने क्या किया है इस बार. जो तीसरी सब्सिडी है हमारी, the other subsidy that we have, which is on प्रधानमंत्री फसल बीमा योजना and प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना, we will say that the government provisioning, this is our next point on agricultural sector, government provisioning on Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana and Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana should be increased in order to assure more efficiency in farming. This will also need better implementation of the program. आप ये इन पे खर्चा कम क्यों करना पड़ रहा है? क्योंकि जो प्रोविजन किया था वो भी खर्च नहीं हो रहा. The government has provisioned few expenditure, even that is not being spent. So whatever was the provisioning done by the government, even that has not been spent in the public domain. Whatever has been the provision done by the government, even that has not been spent. तो जो provisioning किया वो भी खर्चा नहीं कर रहे. तो जब जो provisioning किया वही खर्चा नहीं कर रहे, तो इस पे और खर्चा बढ़ा के कैसे काम चलाओगे? तो करना क्या पड़ेगा? What do you have to do? Make sure that you spend better. You train your departments to implement the policies better and increase the budget for it to reach out the benefits to the farmers. Remember, better agricultural insurance, Fasal Bima Yojana, better agricultural insurance will encourage the farmers to grow high value crops, even if it means taking some risk. अगर थोड़ा रिस्क भी लेना पड़े तो किसान थोड़े हाई वैल्यू क्रॉप्स ग्रो कर सकते हैं. एंड प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना विल अगेन अलाउ बेटर यूज ऑफ वाटर, more efficiency in it, and so on. So that is what we need to assure happens. So in this case again, the freezing of account is because we have not been able to spend all the money. अकाउंट को फ्रीज इसलिए किया गया कि सारे पैसे खर्च नहीं हो पाए, लेकिन पैसे खर्च करना इंपॉर्टेंट है. इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू स्पेंड द मनी, हेल्प आउट द फार्मर्स एंड मेक श्योर दैट यू डू एज गुड एज पॉसिबल. इतना अच्छा खर्च करके प्रोग्राम बनाओ कि किसान को सच में बेनिफिट मिले इसका. अभी क्या हो रहा है, इन स्कीम्स का बेनिफिट किसान तक पूरी तरह नहीं जा रहा, तो जो छोटे किसान हैं या मध्यम वर्गीय किसान हैं उनकी बढ़ोतरी नहीं हो रही. The smaller farmers, the marginal farmers, medium scale farmers are unable to get good benefit out of these programs. So we need to popularize them, and again it will need state government support. We will need state government support for the process. Another thing that the government has done, the decrease in fertilizer subsidy, the decrease in fertilizer subsidy is due to the expectation of reduction in global input price of diammonium phosphate and muriate of potash. ये phosphorus based फर्टिलाइजर है और इस पे हमारा पिछली बार बहुत खर्चा हो गया था, और ये पोटेशियम बेस्ड, तो इन दोनों पे बहुत खर्चा हुआ. एंड प्लस इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड, ऑल्सो एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ लो यूरिया प्राइस. ये भी एक एक्सपेक्टेशन है कि यूरिया की प्राइस भी कम हो जाएगी इस साल, विथ फ्यूल प्राइस एंड गैस प्राइस कमिंग इन कंट्रोल. डोंट फॉरगेट, सरकार ने ये बजट इस सोच के साथ बनाया है कि जो क्रूड ऑयल है वो $70 to $75 पर बैरल पे रहेगा. द क्रूड ऑयल प्राइस विल बी ऑन $70 to $75 पर बैरल. ये सरकार की एक्सपेक्टेशन है. तो $70 $75 पर बैरल पे अगर रहा तो इन सभी पे डाई अमोनियम फॉस्फेट, म्यूरिएट ऑफ पोटैश या फिर लो या यूरिया प्राइस, all of these prices will come down a little, due to which the government has decided that the fertilizer subsidy can be reduced. I will give you a point there. Last year, the government had budgeted that they will give fertilizer subsidy equal to 79,000 crore. Last year, पिछले साल सरकार ने बजट किया था कि फर्टिलाइजर सब्सिडी 79,000 करोड़ दी जाएगी, लेकिन जब वर्ल्ड प्राइसेस बढ़ने लगे तो सरकार ने फर्टिलाइजर सब्सिडी 1,40,000 करोड़ दे दी. अब इस साल सरकार को लगता है कि प्राइस इतना नहीं बढ़ेगा, तो उन्होंने फर्टिलाइजर सब्सिडी कम कर दी है. Also, till last year, there was a lot of outstanding money of fertilizer companies lying with the government. So that is another factor. So apart from the decrease in budgetary price of fertilizer, another reason for decline in fertilizer subsidy reduction, also because all dues of fertilizer companies which were otherwise taken as extra budgetary और ऑफ बजट एक्सपेंडिचर, इन्हीं का नाम होता है ऑफ बजट एक्सपेंडिचर. वो खर्चा जो फाइनली सरकार ही पूरा करेगी लेकिन बजट में नहीं दिखा रही है. So all dues of fertilizer companies, that is extra budgetary or off budget expenditure, have been cleared. पहले सरकार की आदत होती थी कि 30,000 करोड़ 40,000 करोड़ के ड्यूज मेंटेन करते थे, अब वो ड्यूज क्लियर कर दिए इन्होंने. So since all dues have been cleared, this year the requirement of fertilizer subsidy becomes lesser. Since all dues have been cleared, this year the requirement of fertilizer subsidy has become lesser. मैं एक बार फिर बता दूं, BE का मतलब बजटरी एस्टिमेट, दैट इज जो आपने प्लान किया अगले साल के लिए, और RE का मतलब रिवाइज्ड एस्टिमेट, दैट इज जो आपने सच में खर्च किया अपने गवर्नमेंट के अंदर. दैट इज द एस्पेक्ट ऑफ इट. Some of you are asking me questions on unequal procurement, or is MSP the solution, and so on. These are valid questions you are asking me, but they are not context of the budget. So you will have to excuse me for not answering that. कुछ सवाल आप जायज पूछ रहे हो MSP के ऊपर, प्रोक्योरमेंट के ऊपर, लेकिन उनका बजट से लेना देना नहीं, और ये जो सेशंस हम लोग कर रहे हैं वो बजट के लिए है, तो अभी मैं आपके उन सवालों के उत्तर नहीं दे रहा. आई एम नॉट आंसरिंग दोज क्वेश्चंस ऑफ योर्स, बट इफ यू वांट आंसर्स यू कैन ऑलवेज reach out to me and I will be willing to answer that. But at the moment I am suggesting that we stick to the budget idea and budget analysis. सोचो अगर 150 नंबर का पूछ लिए, एग्रीकल्चरल सब्सिडी को एनालाइज करो, तो वही बता रहा हूं that if in 150 words you have to write agricultural subsidy analysis only agricultural subsidy analysis, then it will be about fertilizer subsidy, PM Kisan, फसल बीमा योजना money, PM कृषि सिंचाई योजना money, and so on. So these subsidies you can mention when it comes to discussing agricultural subsidies, and what are the reasons they have gone up, come down, and what is the justification or lack of it in that. So remember, these are things again that we come across for. And of course, whenever we talk fertilizer subsidy, always keep it in mind that we will have to make sure that a lot of loss in fertilizer subsidy due to poor management of these fertilizers has to be removed, and long-term answer will be direct benefit transfer, long-term answer. But before that, we will have to give bank account and all provisions to the poor and the small farmers. But the long-term answer will have to be something like a direct benefit transfer rather than giving these subsidies to the companies. So this is on agricultural subsidies. ये जो analysis मैंने अभी किया आपके साथ, ये agricultural subsidies पे था. अब जो अगला एनालिसिस कर रहा हूं आपके साथ, अब मैं आपको कह रहा हूं, बता रहा हूं, प्रोग्राम्स अनाउंस्ड फॉर एग्रीकल्चर इन द बजट. So there are many things that they have been talking about, and also keep it connected to what has been talked about last year. So one is the budgetary provision for allied activities. ये प्रीलिम्स में भी पूछते हैं इस तरह के सवाल, तो दिमाग में रखना जरूर. Like fisheries and cattle and poultry farming have been increased by 75%, approximately. It is a little less than 75%, but a major increase in these budgetary provisioning. So this is one thing that the government has said. Second, the government says that they will introduce the idea of, the government says that they will introduce the idea of Krishi drones or agricultural Kisan drones for crop assessment. They say that they will popularize Kisan drones for crop assessment. Now, if you ask me, it's a good idea, but small farmers and marginal farmers can be helped only if there is a method to take these drones on rent rather than to buy them. Nobody will buy these drones, that is certain. So for crop assessment, digitalization of land records, Again, I'm giving you these details from prelims point of view. Sometimes they will ask you that what are the objectives. They will give you a statement regarding objectives of Kisan drones. So in the budget, the finance minister mentioned it, and spraying of fertilizers and insecticides. But if you ask me, Indian agriculture, if we want to do this, Kisan drones and all, this will save cost of farming, but this will save labor cost of farming. And we have not yet found a substitute for agricultural workers. ये कॉस्ट ऑफ फार्मिंग बचाएगा, लेकिन ये लेबर कॉस्ट ऑफ फार्मिंग बचाएगा, और हमने अभी तक सब्स्टिट्यूट नहीं ढूंढा है एग्रीकल्चरल वर्कर्स के लिए. तो एग्रीकल्चरल वर्कर के नौकरी का अगर इंतजाम नहीं करेंगे और उनकी नौकरी ले लेंगे किसान ड्रोन्स के थ्रू, तो फिर वो जाएंगे कहां? तो वो भी प्रावधान होना जरूरी है. It is important that we create a good enough structure where landless agricultural laborers, etc., can be absorbed in other works, and along with that, introducing Kisan drones. It's a great idea technologically. It will save cost of production, but that all will require renting. It should be possible to rent it out. किराए पे मिलना चाहिए. किसानों के पास इतने पैसे नहीं होंगे कि किसान ड्रोन खरीदने जाएं, तो किराए पे मिलना चाहिए. और साथ में जो आपके लेबर क्लास हैं किसानी में, उनके लिए अपॉर्चुनिटी अल्टरनेटिव होनी चाहिए. देन ओनली दीज स्कीम्स कैन बी गुड. अदरवाइज दीज स्कीम्स कैन बी डिसरप्टिव एंड समटाइम्स दे विल नॉट बी वेलकम. ऑल्सो इफ द ड्रोन्स आर कॉस्टलियर देन द मैनुअल लेबर, people will not use drones. So Kisan drones can be the future, and it's possible to use them. Maybe the finance minister meant that, but if we want them to be popularized, we will have to make sure that there is better utility factor for them, and the farmers are encouraged by some subsidy or some government program to use them. Now see, the next thing is, the next thing is that the government has also proposed that there will be a focus on natural farming and a 5-kilometer wide corridor along Ganga river, has been proposed for that. अब इसका एक छोटा सा डिस्कशन मैं आपसे करना चाहता हूं 5 मिनट का. That is the other proposal, that focus on natural farming. Mind you, natural farming is not organic farming. Natural farming जो है वो ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग नहीं होता. ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग में आप केमिकल फर्टिलाइजर यूज नहीं करते, केमिकल पेस्टिसाइड्स यूज नहीं करते, लेकिन अपने खेत के बाहर से इनपुट खरीद के ला सकते हो. In organic farming, you don't buy chemical fertilizers and you don't buy chemical pesticides, but you are allowed to bring inputs from outside your farmhouse. You are allowed to bring your inputs from outside your farmhouse. But in case of natural farming, the idea is that do not buy any input from outside the farm. Use all the things from the farm itself. Like Subhas Palekar would say that you take Bijamrit and Jeevamrit and use the solutions of jaggery, cow dung, cow urine, spread it and then use them to preserve your land and give it back the fertility. So all this is being said by these people. But remember, so that is natural farming, and that is how it is different from, the organic farming thing. So government says that the farms on that the focus will be on natural farming by initiating. So they say that initial project will be a 5-kilometer corridor along river Ganga. Now again, good enough idea, but remember अब ये सुनना खूब ध्यान से. ये क्या इंपॉर्टेंट बात है कि फार्मर्स ने क्या कहा है. फार्मर्स experiences that when they shift from chemical farming to natural farming, the shift from chemical farming to natural farming reduces productivity, कि जितना आपका फसल ग्रो करता है, productivity by 35% to 40% in the first year. And even after 4 years, the productivity is at 75 to 80%. तो किसान का तो नुकसान हो जाएगा इसमें. ठीक है, लॉन्ग टर्म भलाई है, लेकिन शॉर्ट रन में जब उन्हें ये नुकसान होगा, that the shift from chemical farming to natural farming reduces productivity by 35 to 40% in the first year, and even after 4 years the productivity is at 75 to 80%. So the farmers demand, is to provision subsidy in the interim period. किसान कहते हैं कि ठीक है, फिर हमें मदद दो, आप encourage करो कि जब तक हम इस टाइम पीरियड को पूरा करते हैं तब तक हमें कुछ सब्सिडी मिल जाए. That government should encourage them by giving some subsidy in the interim. That the farmers' demand is to provision subsidy in the interim period. Farmers' demand is to provision subsidy in the interim period. That is what the farmers' experience is. So farmers ये कहते हैं that fair enough, there is a first, that we can shift to it, but the problem is that the productivity drops big time, and to cover for this productivity there should be some encouragement. Otherwise, how do we shift to these things? So that is the second thing that farmers talk about, and that is important. We need to make sure that this is something that we can give an ear on. इसको ध्यान रखना जरूरी है. Then another thing that the government has said, that they will be launching a fund in agriculture with a lot of capital blended to help farmers through agricultural startups. That is another thing that the government says. There is another provision in agriculture, launching a fund in agriculture. एक ऐसा fund बनाएंगे, a fund dedicated to agriculture to promote agricultural startups, to promote agricultural startups. अब ये अच्छी बात है फिर, government says they will also include farmers, producers organization and other farming groups, और उनको encourage करेंगे कि आप agricultural technology upgradation करो. ये अच्छी बात है, इसमें कोई doubt नहीं है, but again यहाँ पर ये ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा, it will have to be considered that Indian agriculture doesn't only consist of big farmers or medium scale farmers. 86% of total farming households in India are still in the category of marginal and small, and these agricultural startups may not immediately reach out to them. And this is the missing link of agriculture this year. That there are 2-3 missing links in agriculture, if you ask me, and that is what I am now highlighting. So what are the missing links in agricultural announcements? Missing links, what should have been done? 1, less funding for agricultural infrastructure development. This is something the government could have done better on. So there is less funding this year, fund release for agricultural infrastructure development fund. Second, less stress on focus on public research in agricultural research and development, in agricultural sector. If you see, there was a recent article by Mr. Ashok Gulati. Professor Gulati is quite an authority in agriculture. There is a very big stress by Professor Ashok Gulati, where he says that if you invest 1 rupee in Indian agriculture, your future returns can be 3 to 3.5 rupees. So less stress on focus on public research in agricultural sector. This is the other missing link, that has also happened. That when you look at this, okay, so one of you asked me that what is the source of farmers' demand and all. Just read economics, the economics survey chapter on agriculture, and you can also read Indian Express, the 2nd February Indian Express, the page on agriculture. Both places you will see this written across. All right, so you can use that. And interim period means when the adjustment takes place. That is interim period, is when the adjustment take place. नहीं विवेक, इस साल MSP 2,37,000 करोड़ है, अगले साल की provisioning 2,46,000 करोड़ की है. I hope विवेक तुम समझ गए होगे. FPOs can benefit small farmers, but only when you include small farmers in it. Public research like Agricultural Research Institute, Ashish, that is the meaning of public research. Okay, so less stress on focus on public research in agriculture, like government institutions doing research in agriculture. There should have been more provisioning of funds, etc. for these. And the other missing link here is less stress on investment. This is something we should have focused on. Investment to create more and more short-term irrigation development. Now there is an announcement on Ken Betwa project, no doubt about it, and the government has provisioned 1400 crore rupees for Ken Betwa link, which is expected to give support to around 9.1 lakh hectare of farmland as suggested in the budget, and also 62 lakh people will be benefited with 130 megawatt of electricity produced through the Ken Betwa link, But again, the point is that small irrigation projects can come much more useful for the agricultural system than these big irrigation projects. And Ken Betwa link again is something which has been, environmentally it has always been in wrong news. We'll have to wait and watch regarding environmental clearance provisions also. But of course there is the Ken Betwa link announcement, 1400 crore rupees provisioned for it. and it is said that 9.1 lakh hectare will be irrigated with the Ken-Betwa link. So you can keep that also in your mind. But these are 2-3 things in agriculture, and there is nothing to reduce the stress on land. जरूरत से ज्यादा किसान हैं अभी, 43% भारत की जो वर्कफोर्स है वो एग्रीकल्चर में है. 43% of India's workforce is in agriculture. We need to improve upon that. We need to make it much higher in number. 43% of workforce is a relatively lesser number at the moment. So we need to make it much higher in number if we want Indian agriculture to do better. So this is the discussion, so remember, that is another factor I need you to keep in mind, that the budget doesn't show provision, reducing workforce in agriculture. कम लोग रहें, ज़्यादा प्रोडक्शन हो, उसी से प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ेगी. But reducing workforce in agriculture will mean creating alternatives for these people in agriculture. Reducing workforce in agriculture will mean creating alternatives for these people in agriculture. So this is regarding budget analysis on agriculture. ये जो analysis मैंने किया, ये budget analysis था with respect to agriculture. Now there is another thing that they ask us at times. This is the impact of budget on Make in India. Impact of budget on Make in India. और जैसा मैंने आपको कहा था, सभी पे 4-4, 5-5, 6-6 पॉइंट्स आपके पास जरूर होने चाहिए. Impact of budget on Make in India. मिसिंग लिंक का मतलब कि क्या चीजें नहीं हो रही बसीमा. मिसिंग लिंक का मतलब वो है कि क्या चीजें नहीं हो रही जो होनी चाहिए. ऑलराइट, दैट इज द एस्पेक्ट. Now see, there should have been more funding for infrastructure. That is the aspect. Yes, doubling farmers' income is not being discussed. That is the aspect on that also. Now see, we need to decrease the agricultural workforce in farming. We need to develop alternative jobs so that the agricultural workforce can be reduced. Mansi, I was answering your question. That agricultural workforce can be reduced. Now see, when you look at it here, when we say Make in India, the impact that it creates on Make in India, the impact that it creates on Make in India. Now please understand this. When we say Make in India, the impact on the budget, there are 5-6 points. Again, there is no major direct point that the government has done, but we can pick it up from the budget as 5-6 tax benefits and so on, which can help in Make in India. So first is the concessional rate of 15% till March 2024 for newly incorporated enterprises. That is one benefit that has been created. Concessional rate of 15% for newly incorporated is registered, enterprises till March 2024, earlier ending in March 2023. So पहले रूल ये था कि सरकार ने कहा था कि अगर आप इंडिया में रजिस्टर करते हो खुद को और आप अपना प्रोडक्शन मार्च 2023 तक शुरू कर देते हो तो आपको टैक्स रेट 15% ही देना पड़ेगा, कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स. If you start registering yourself in India and produce, then your corporate tax rate will be only 15%. This is what the government had said earlier. that concessional rate of 15% for newly incorporated enterprises till March 23. Now the government says आप March 24 तक भी produce करो, आपको ये concessional rate मिलेगा. So 1 year extra has been given for that, which can encourage more firms to register and produce in India. So this will help in more startup, and especially in manufacturing and all, this can be helped. So this is one thing that happens. Another thing, in the same context of tax concession, another thing that the government has said is that the startups can take 3 years of 0% tax on their profit starting 2022-23. So earlier it was said that the startups can take 0% tax benefit in the next 10 years in any 3 years, and this had started from 2021 itself. उन 2020-21 में ये कहा गया था कि जो स्टार्टअप्स हैं वो अगले 10 साल में किसी भी 3 सक्सेसिव साल प्रॉफिट पे टैक्स देने से बच सकते हैं. सरकार ने उस पे भी 1 साल और आगे बढ़ा दी बात. सरकार ने कहा आपको 1 साल का कंसेशन यहां भी देते हैं, आप रादर देन 2021 मार्च, आप 2022 मार्च से अपने 10 साल कैलकुलेट कर सकते हो. पहले सरकार ने कहा था कि अगर आपकी नई कंपनी है तो 2021 मार्च से लेकर 10 साल तक किसी भी 3 साल आप प्रॉफिट टैक्स देने से बच सकते हो. अब सरकार ने कहा है कि आपको 2022 मार्च ऑनवर्ड्स ये अलाउड है. So these are steps taken to promote startups and to help them, because the government acknowledges that earlier the COVID has affected the things badly in the last 2 years. तो startups को ये benefit देने की बात सरकार ने की है इसके अंदर. Another thing to promote Make in India is that 68% of the defense expenditure on contracts by government will be reserved for Indian manufacturers. That is the other thing that the government has talked about. So the other thing government talks about is, third, 68% of total government procurement, this was 58% earlier, to be devoted to Indian manufacturers in defense equipment. So this is about Atmanirbharta in defense that the government has talked about. That in defense equipment, again 68% of total government procurement will be devoted to Indian manufacturers. That is again something that can promote the project of Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. The government has also said that there will be a support on research and development also to the Indian manufacturers. The research and development under DRDO. So Indian manufacturers will be encouraged along with this, plus research and development promotion. So Indian manufacturers will be encouraged to even go for research and development promotion in DRDO. That research and development promotion will also be given under the guidance of DRDO. Now see, okay Ankit, why not? Why not? This is fair enough. Aditya, the number can be reduced by improving more jobs in alternative enterprises. But I can take you into details of it only later. At this point of time, if we go that side, we will digress from the budget discussion. That is the aspect of it. Now see, the second thing that comes in, that brings about, is that the government has said that they will be reducing alternative minimum tax, alternative minimum tax. This alternative minimum tax is that if you are a firm or a cooperative which is earning profit, but you are getting concessions and exemptions from the government, due to which you are not liable to pay any profit, any tax, still you will have to pay a basic amount of tax to the government. That is the alternative minimum tax. कि अगर आप एक फर्म हो या कोऑपरेटिव हो जो प्रॉफिट अर्न कर रहे हो, लेकिन कहते हो कि मैं प्रॉफिट देना नहीं है मुझे क्योंकि मैं एग्जेम्पशन है मेरे पास सारी और मैं जीरो टैक्स दे दूंगा, तो उस केस में आपको ये ऑल्टरनेटिव मिनिमम टैक्स देना पड़ता है. सो रिड्यूसिंग ऑल्टरनेटिव मिनिमम टैक्स फॉर कोऑपरेटिव्स from, and again remember, for the firms it had already been reduced to 15% 2 years back. Now for cooperatives it is reduced from 18.5% to 15% in the budget. So this is good for the cooperatives here, and this can promote rural manufacturing because many firms in food processing are cooperatives. So this can promote rural manufacturing, and also the surcharge on cooperatives earning up to 10 crore rupees has been reduced from 12% to 7%. That is another thing, and these are information from prelims point of view that you should keep in mind. That the surcharge on cooperatives with profit between 1 crore to 10 crore rupees has been reduced from 12% to 7%. So this is another thing that can encourage the cooperatives, that the smaller cooperatives with profit between 1 crore to 10 crore, which were paying a surcharge of 12%, will now pay only 7%. The firms will still pay 12%. But the cooperatives will pay 7%. So this is another thing, positive decision taken for the purpose of revamping the cooperatives. Then there have been announcements also done for MSME. एक और announcement किया गया, that is the fifth thing to promote Make in India, promotion of MSME. अब इसके ऊपर अगर डिटेल में गए तो एक अलग पूरा वीडियो ही बनाना पड़ेगा. मैं आपको 2-3 मेन पॉइंट्स बता देता हूं. पहला, एक्सटेंशन ऑफ इमरजेंसी क्रेडिट लिंक गारंटी स्कीम, ECLGS. तो एक तो ये बढ़ा दिया है सरकार ने. इनमें दो बातों का, प्रीलिम्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से दो बात का ध्यान रखना. द बजटेड वैल्यू नाउ is rupees 5 lakh crore, and this is which is rupees 50,000 crore more than last year. ये दोनों बातें आप जरूर दिमाग में रखोगे. इस साल की बजटेड वैल्यू है 5 लाख करोड़ और पिछले साल के कंपैरिजन में वो 50,000 करोड़ ज्यादा है. ऑलराइट, प्रीलिम्स में इन दोनों में से कोई सवाल आ सकता है. This emergency credit link guarantee system became very popular in the year 2021 when the government provisioned 3 lakh crore under it. This became very popular in the year 2021 when the government provisioned 3 lakh crore under it. And then the budgeted value has been increased. It was increased to 4.5 lakh crore in the last year's budget, and it has been increased to 5 lakh crore. So in this case, the banks can now give collateral free loans to the MSMEs, which can then use them for their working capital need. जब इन लोन्स का पर्पस ये होता है कि बैंक्स कोलैटरल फ्री लोन दे सकें MSME को. The purpose of these loans is that the banks can give collateral free loans to MSME, और कोविड के वक्त जो डिमांड वगैरह कम हो रहा है वो कम से कम MSME अपना रिट्रीव कर सकें. That is the purpose of doing it with respect to MSME. And then remember, the government has also said that there will be a revamp, एक फिर से रिस्टोर किया जाएगा, revamp of credit guarantee trust for you know giving loans to MSME. ये credit guarantee trust जो बनाया था सरकार ने बनाया है, ये माइक्रो और स्मॉल एंटरप्राइजेस के लिए है. You know, so the credit guarantee trust for micro small enterprises to continue provisioning of loans to MSME. So that will help them in getting liquidity. Both of these things, mind you, will give MSME the liquidity to meet working capital requirements. To meet working capital requirements. You know, both of these things will give MSME the liquidity to meet working capital requirements. Okay, Vivek, if you insist, I will surely cross-check. You know, if you are, if you insist, then I will surely, cross-check on this. Since you have been asking me, I will surely do that. You can always reach out to me later on. Yeah, they are same thing. MAT, AMT, they are used interchangeably at times. But the government now prefers using MAT rather than AMT. Well, till now we have not seen them accentuating it, Ujjwal. There's one question that you asked me that ECLGS might accentuate the problem of NPA, but till now we have not seen that happening, till now. So we don't know if in future that happens, but at the moment it's going okay. We have not seen it happening much at the moment. Now, no Mayank, you don't need to do that. Don't read the annexure for all the 9 schemes on PM Divine. Now see, another thing that the government has announced, which is quite a good thing, that is the government says that we will be developing, a system called Raising and Accelerating MSME Performance Program. Raising and Accelerating MSME Performance Program. They are calling it RAMP, and this will be good about ranking the MSME and judging their performance and then helping them in accelerating their production and production capacity. तो ये पर्पस है रेजिंग एंड एक्सेलरेटिंग एमएसएमई परफॉर्मेंस. अभी बहुत क्लैरिटी नहीं दी है सरकार ने इसके ऊपर, बट उन्होंने कहा है कि इसके थ्रू there will be a raising and accelerating MSME performance that the government will do, so that MSME program can be enhanced and they can be ranked and they can be trained to produce better. So that is again something that the government is trying to do. So that is again important. Mind you, 30%, in fact 11 crore people are employed in MSME, and that means almost 40% of non-agricultural workforce of India. This is what we are looking at. तो इसीलिए MSME important हो जाते हैं. That almost 40% of non-agricultural workforce is employed in MSME, and 30% of GDP comes from MSME. So when you produce via MSME, both services and manufacturing, and promote them, you do promote more and more production and employment generation in India. That 40% of the non-agricultural workforce is in MSME and 30% productivity capacity in MSME. So this is another thing that the government has worked upon. Also remember, apart from these, the government has provisioned special fund for textile. Apart from Mitra तो है ही जिसके लिए fund provision किया गया है. There has been special funding done for textile to improve workers' condition and technological input in textile industries, again in the MSME sector. That those textile industries, in the MSME sector can have more infusion of funds. So 1400 crore rupees for technological upgradation in textile. 1400 crore rupees for technological upgradation in textile in MSME. जो textile units MSME में है, उनके लिए 1400 करोड़ का टेक्नोलॉजिकल अपग्रेडेशन फंड सरकार ने इस बार पास किया है. Those MSME which are in textile sector, 1400 crore technological upgradation fund has been developed. And for Mitra scheme, which has been announced this year by the government, 550 crore rupees has been provisioned. For Mitra scheme, 550 crore rupees have been provisioned. So these are again factors that the government has done for MSME development. Mitra, of course, is not only MSME. Mitra goes beyond that. Then remember, there is one legal thing that the government has done which is very important. That is announcement to bring amendment in Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act for international corporate insolvency resolution. That is important again. There has been an announcement to bring amendment in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act sorry, for international corporate insolvency resolution. जैसे होता क्या है, अब आपके यहाँ किसी ने bankruptcy की, उसके बाद वो बाहर चले गए. Somebody goes bankrupt in your country, then they run abroad. वो बाहर भाग गए, बाहर चले गए. अगर बाहर चले गए, आप उनको कैसे पकड़ने जाओगे, क्या करोगे, क्या आप उनके प्रॉपर्टी अटैच कर सकते हो, क्या आप उनके बाहर पैसा वसूल कर सकते हो, उनके बाहर की प्रॉपर्टी सेल करके. ये लॉ हमारे यहाँ मिसिंग था, जिसका बहुत लोग फायदा उठा रहे थे. या फिर बाहर की कोई कंपनी आपके यहाँ है, क्या वो क्लेम्स पुट कर सकती है. सो इंटरनेशनल आर्बिट्राज will become easier as Indian exit laws will also acknowledge the international provision of corporate insolvency, because there are many corporates today which may be doing business in multiple countries including India. So a proper law on international corporate insolvency resolution will help in making sure that when people go bankrupt, they don't try escaping the clause of payment by shifting their assets abroad. बहुत लोग क्या करते हैं, जब बैंक्रप्सी देखते हैं कॉर्पोरेट्स, तो अपने एसेट्स बाहर के अपने ब्रांचेस में शिफ्ट कर देते हैं और यहां बच जाते हैं उनको पे करने से. तो दैट इज समथिंग दैट द गवर्नमेंट इज ट्राइंग टू डू, दैट गेट अ प्रॉपर रूल फॉर इंटरनेशनल आर्बिट्राज ऑन कॉर्पोरेट रिजोल्यूशन. You know, that is the aspect of it. Now, when you look at it here, नहीं, अगर हाँ उनको नहीं अलाउड है, करेक्ट आयुषी, सही बात कह रहे हो. Now see, when you look at this, when you look at this, another thing that the government has brought in is a new announcement on audio visual console gaming. This is about gaming in short, but enterprise to have a devoted policy. This is again regarding digitalization of the country. Devoted policy after consultation with all service providers. So after consultation with all service providers, the audio visual console gaming, AVCG, as it is said, a promotion task force will be developed. So government will set up a task force regarding this. This is again going to be the future. अभी से ही हम audio visual gaming की बात करते हैं, metaverse की बात हो रही है, तो obviously this is something that India can target, and this is again a step towards digitalization of India. This is again a step towards digitalization of India. So these 6-7 points you can talk about. There are more points, but again we can't go into all details of it right now. But ये 6-7 point आप जरूर आराम से बात कर सकते हो with respect to Make in India program. That how budget has tried to promote Make in India. These 6-7 programs you can talk on this. Now when you look at this, this is another part to keep in mind. Now when you look at this here, just to answer your point, Ashish, in hospitality and related enterprises, they have been stuck by COVID in the past, But if you look at it, just to put it across, according to RBI's data, the number of, the amount of loans reporting losses are much lesser now than what it used to be in the past. All right, that is the aspect of it. जनवरी से सिंपी, जून से सिंपी, ये ऑडियो विजुअल कंसोल गेमिंग एंटरप्राइजेज हैं आयुषी, इनको यूज किया जाएगा। सरकार एक टास्क फोर्स बनाएगी कि कैसे इस सेक्टर को प्रमोट किया जाए, ताकि आज जो चाइना या ऐसी कंट्रीज लीड ले चुकी हैं इंडिया से, इंडिया भी इनकी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अपने यहां करे और सर्विस प्रोविजन अपने यहां करे। आई होप इट एक्सप्लेन्स। ऑल राइट, देन रिमेंबर वी टेक आवरसेल्व्स टू द नेक्स्ट एस्पेक्ट, बजट and inclusive growth. What has budget tried to do to promote inclusive growth? So budget and inclusive growth. Yes, Vijay Mallya is one example, no doubt. All right. So when you look at budget and inclusive growth, again, जब तुम एग्जाम में इसका आंसर लिख रहे हो inclusive growth को लेकर और बजट को लेकर, तो हमेशा ध्यान रखना, all policies promoting एग्रीकल्चरल इनकम, जो भी सब्सिडीज की बात करो तो एग्रीकल्चरल इनकम के ऊपर जो भी पॉलिसीज हैं उनकी बात कर सकते हो। सो ऑल पॉलिसीज प्रमोटिंग एग्रीकल्चरल इनकम, that you can talk about on budget and inclusive growth, that all policies promoting agricultural income, that is what you can talk about when you say budget and inclusive growth. Other than that, remember food subsidy. Now in food subsidy, the government has planned 2,06,000 crore, this year as food subsidy, while till last year they were giving a food subsidy of approximately 2,60,000 crore. And also last year, I mean, if we go back to just the food subsidy aspect, in 2020-21, this food subsidy was almost 5,21,000 crore rupees. But there was a reason to it. Food subsidy of course high रहा है सरकार का, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है, लेकिन उसका कारण है कि ये क्यों इतने ज्यादा नीचे आया। सो फूड सब्सिडी, इफ यू लुक एट इट, 2,06,000 crore is the budgetary estimate on food subsidy in this is 2022-23. In 2021-22 food subsidy that government gave was higher than this. The food subsidy the government gave in 2021-22, the revised estimates are 2,86,000 crore, approximately, of course, a little more than this. So we have reduced food subsidy here. Also remember, in 2020-21, the COVID year, the government, if you look at the data set, the government food subsidy bill was 5,41,000 crore. These are the estimates for 21-22 and 2021. In 22-23, it is 2,06,000 crore. The government says there are two reasons for reducing food subsidy. For reducing it, one, less expectation of extra requirement under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. So government says we expect it less, that we will need food subsidy under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. So less expectation of extra requirement in this. एक चीज तो सरकार ये कह रही है कि कम उम्मीद है कि प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण योजना में कोई फूड सब्सिडी देनी पड़ेगी। तो ठीक है, पॉसिबल है, ऐसा हो सकता है। अगर कोविड का वेव नहीं आया तो हो सकता है। If we have another severe wave of COVID, government will have to revise its values over here. If we have another severe wave of COVID, government will have to revise its value over here. And the second reason government says is that all dues of Food Corporation of India, again an extra budgetary resource, all dues of Food Corporation of India have been paid back. You know, all dues of Food Corporation of India have been paid back. That is another suggestion that the government has given, that all dues of Food Corporation of India have been paid back. So that is, so government says that out of this 5,41,000 crore rupees, actually 1,88,000 crore was the dues of the Food Corporation of India that had not been paid to them. तो सरकार ये जो एक्स्ट्रा बजटरी रिसोर्स है, ऑफ बजट मनी है, उसको थोड़ा कम कर रही है. दैट द डिपेंडेंस ऑन आउटसाइड सोर्स, public sector enterprises bearing the brunt, government is trying to reduce that. So they say that is why we have reduced food subsidy to 2,06,000 crore. But this is something that we will have to wait and watch, because if we have another wave of COVID, or if the economy doesn't pick up, consumption expenditure we already see is pretty low. Yesterday I was teaching you about that. Then this food subsidy bill might have to be increased by the government. So last year also they did it. Last year the provisioning was 2,41,000 crore, but with the second wave of COVID, another 45,000 crore rupees was spent. पिछले साल भी जब सरकार ने बजटरी एस्टिमेट किया था तो 2,41,000 करोड़ किया था, इस साल 2,86,000 करोड़ दे दिया, लेकिन अब पिछले साल के रिवाइज्ड एस्टिमेट में. तो अगर वापस कोविड आया या कोई दिक्कत आई तो बढ़ाना ही पड़ेगा, कोई चारा नहीं है. एंड वी आर स्टिल नॉट आउट ऑफ द वुड्स. इन फैक्ट आइडियली the suggestion would be not to reduce this subsidy bill immediately. ये ideal suggestion होगा कि सरकार को अपनी subsidy bill इतनी जल्दी कम नहीं करना चाहिए था, because we are still not out of the woods and consumption is still suffering. So ideally we could have given a little more subsidy on things like food. So if you give a little subsidy on food, you free up the money of the people to spend on other activities. अगर आप कुछ सब्सिडी फूड पे दे देते हो तो आप लोगों को फ्री अप करते हो अदर एक्टिविटीज के लिए, एंड दैट इज समथिंग दैट कुड हैव हेल्प्ड द इकोनॉमी मच बेटर. देन रिमेंबर, व्हेन इट कम्स टू इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ, ऑफ कोर्स एजुकेशन एंड हेल्थ बिकम अ डोमिनेटिंग ट्रेंड ओवर देयर. सो इफ वी कम इनटू दैट टॉक, यू नो, इफ वी टॉक अबाउट एजुकेशन, again the total provision is 1,04,000 crore. This has to increase. This is comparatively lesser if you ask me. The revised estimates last year, 21-22, are suggesting around 97,000 crore, 93,000 crore. So the revised estimates are suggesting 93,000 crore. 1,04,000 crore, this should have been around 1,40,000 crore if you ask me. तो ये बढ़ना चाहिए. ये टोटल प्रोविजन कम है अभी भी एजुकेशन के लिए. ये बजटरी एस्टिमेट्स हैं 2022-23 के, तो इससे बढ़ाना जरूरी है. इतने से काम शायद नहीं चल पाएगा. You know, that is the other factor. Now another thing is, you know, okay, since you ask me, अगर ड्यूज पे कर दोगे वैभव तो वो दिखाना पड़ेगा ना बजट पे. बजट पे दिखाओगे तो उसके केस में सब्सिडी बिल दिखेगा. अर्पित, द फूड सब्सिडी बिल शुड नॉट हैव डिक्लाइंड बिकॉज ऑफ WTO agreement. If you ask me, we have already taken a peace clause from them. You know, we have already taken a peace clause. दोनों अलग अलग बातें होती हैं आयुषी, MSP और फूड सब्सिडी. Okay. No, Make in India is okay, Anurag. The criticisms are same that remain till now, you know. Now see, okay, Jai Singh, done. We will have a class on optional paper discussion. Okay, पक्का करता हूँ. In fact, बजट के parts में मंडे को हम वैसे भी खत्म कर लेंगे. After today, I'll give you a 2 days break, and Monday will be the last discussion on budget, when I will teach you the impact of capital expenditure, that is the capex, the problems in the budget. We will also talk about, when I teach you on Monday, we will also talk about taxation policy of the government, subsidy policy of the government, the macroeconomic aspect of it. तो एक 1.5 hour का एनालिसिस उस दिन भी करेंगे. आज मेरे दिमाग में ये मेन सेक्टर्स कवर करना था, जो होपफुली हम लोग कर लेंगे. So after we finish all these sectoral discussion on budget, we will do a macroeconomic discussion talking about center-state relation, talking about capital expenditure done by the government, the benefits and the problems, center-state relation, subsidies in the budget, the benefits and the problem, taxation methods of the government, the fiscal policy with respect to fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, and how the government has to reduce it, and the debt GDP ratio. So all these discussions I have kept Monday for that. Monday evening I will meet you once more for around 1.5 hours and sort it out. But you know, today I wanted to finish all the sectoral discussion so that agar mains exam में या prelims में किसी particular sector से कुछ पूछा जाए तो तुम्हारे पास information set होना चाहिए. You know, and I have uploaded the summary of the budget. I hope you have seen that, and we will be uploading questions on the budget from the coming week. So hopefully that will help you too. Now see, when we look at this, you know, thank you all for being here. So when we look at this, you know, no, Vikas, global hunger index is not related to food subsidy. You know, don't confuse the two at all. Global hunger index and food subsidy are not correlated to each other. Possible, Ravi, we will have to wait and watch. Ashutosh, it's a big discussion, you know, if you ask me. So yes, there has to be a more nuanced discussion than saying a yes or a no to it, to be honest, Ashutosh. But it's a good question you put, no doubt. But you know, we will need more nuanced discussion. We cannot stop it, but we can make it better than what we have at the moment. Okay, taking you into education now. Now remember, the focus has been mainly on digitalization and technical updation of education. So if you look at the steps taken, अगर बजट के स्टेप्स देखो तो ज्यादातर फोकस जो है वो डिजिटलाइजेशन, अपग्रेडेशन, इन चीजों पर है. जैसे द गवर्नमेंट सेज दैट 1 class 1 TV channel to be upgraded further for more languages to be covered, upgraded over 200 channels. So more languages to be covered. So this is again adding to e-learning. You know, so the finance minister said that this 1 class 1 TV channel, this can be now moved up to 200 channels can use this, and this will help in more languages being covered and e-learning to be distributed. So that is one. Another thing that the government has announced that they will be working on is a digital, you know, first is a virtual lab and skilling e-labs for critical thinking. You know, virtual labs plus electronic labs for skilling, and the government says that this will be to enhance critical thinking, you know, to enhance critical thinking. So that's another thing that they talk about, that we will enhance critical thinking out of it. The government also says that they will create a digital university to promote hub and spoke model in education. Digital university to work on a hub spoke model. एक hub होगा और अलग अलग जगह से लोग जुड़ेंगे और खुद को train कर पाएंगे. You know, so working on hub spoke model. If you recall, yesterday I told you about the hub spoke model. So a digital university regarding that. The government has also said that they will be talking about a digital ecosystem for skilling and livelihood, the Desh Stack e-port as they call it, you know, the digital ecosystem for skilling and livelihood, you know, the Desh portal as they call it, that they say that this will be a Desh Stack e-portal. You know, इसका एक नाम दे रहे हैं, वो कहते हैं Desh Stack e-portal. अब एक बात का खूब ध्यान रखना सब लोग, खूब ध्यान से सुनो इस बात को. From prelims point of view, you should make sure that whatever policies have been announced in the budget, whatever talks have been done in the budget, whatever development you read about it, अब देश स्टैक ई पोर्टल के बारे में कोई न्यूज़ पढ़ो अखबार में, और अगर सरकार ने कोई पैसा दिया उसके लिए या कोई सेटअप किया या कोई डिपार्टमेंट को उसके लिए ऑथराइज किया, फटाफट वो नोट डाउन करो. ये प्रीलिम्स में पूछते हैं इसी तरह से. So when you see something that we mention in the over here, budget has mentioned it, and then if you see a program developed by the government regarding it, immediately note it down so that you can have a complete updation on it. And they said that startups will be also be promoted to facilitate drone Shakti, you know, for drone development as it is, you know. So startups to promote drone shakti. That is the aspect of it, that promote drone shakti via startups. Promote drone shakti via startups. Make sure that you promote drone shakti via startups, that, you know, develop startups to produce drones and create that skill in education. Now, if you see, the focus has been on digitalization, but it will be better if we focus on infrastructure development in education and skilling also of people in remote areas. So, you know, secondary school development, infrastructure of schools to be upgraded, accessibility to schools to be upgraded, provision of drinking water facility and toilet facilities in school. We need to give more money for this and update this, especially in the rural areas of India. So when you look at the missing link here, the challenges or what the budget did not talk about was these, you know. So when you look at here, that missing link in education, missing link, what the budget did not talk about is the physical aspect of it. You know, we need to be careful on that also, you know, that about better infrastructure in schools. We need to make sure that teaching amenities are improved. Physical mode of teaching amenities, because we have talked about digital mode of teaching amenities, and no doubt it is a game changer, but we cannot ignore the physical mode of teaching amenities to be improved. We need to make sure that the physical mode of teaching amenities also get improved. Then we also need to make sure, you know, when you look at better infrastructure, physical mode of teaching amenities to be improved, like give people better accessibility to teaching material, books to be published and given to children on time, teachers willing to establish a rapport with the children, and then of course civic amenities like drinking water facility, toilet facility, especially, you know, separate gender-based toilet, because in rural areas these things mean a lot. And if we could have talked a little more on these, that could have put things in better perspective, because for inclusive growth, in education, you need to do that. And curriculum related upgradation, you know, upgrade the curriculum, especially at high school level. You know, the high school curriculum upgradation, we have been talking about it for some years now. So we can think about upgrading the curriculum in higher schools so that more children can benefit from school education. That is the key, that give more benefit to children from school education. So in education, these are the words. So again, remember, it's from mains point of view. Steps taken, missing link. You know, the benefits of the step, you can digitalize, you can reach out to more people. If BharatNet gets covered, then of course more villages can be covered. But this is also that we need to do, that physical education cannot be, or physical methods of education cannot be ignored. COVID has of course dented it, but coming out of the post-COVID world, we will need to make sure that we do better over here. So this is what I need you to upgrade upon. Then, you know, apart from that, what we also need to look at is healthcare. That is the third thing in inclusive growth. Healthcare development. Again, you know, एक तो सरकार ने अभी क्या किया है, इसको health and wellness का नाम दे दिया है. So healthcare, sanitation, air pollution removal, water supply, all this has come under a single club now. So becomes difficult to acknowledge that how much is exclusively given for hospitals and wherewithal and so on. ये थोड़ा मुश्किल होता है पता करना, क्योंकि सरकार ने हेल्थ केयर को क्लब कर दिया एक साथ with wellness. So healthcare and wellness is one thing, but focusing on healthcare is another. That is healthcare with respect to hospitals availability, primary healthcare centers position, possibility of tertiary healthcare. All that in healthcare becomes a much better idea. You know, that is the aspect of it. Now see, when you look at this on healthcare, again the provisioning is around 82,000 crore rupees only for healthcare, and otherwise the provisioning is around 1,94,000 crore rupees for health and wellness. Now see, when it comes to healthcare, this is the budgetary estimate 22-23. When you look at healthcare in general or per se, one is the government says that developing a national ecosystem for healthcare development, a national healthcare ecosystem by digital record maintenance, a national healthcare ecosystem through digitalization. Now this is a good idea, no doubt about it. A good idea because this will give faster accessibility to records. This will help the patients connect to the doctors quickly. This will help remote area patients to get digitally connected and get right type of medicine at right time. So this digitalization through national health ecosystem is a good idea. Another very good idea is the focus on mental health issues. It's a very good idea with a mental health system, that people are suffering during COVID time, and NIMHANS, the government's very famous mental health support system, NIMHANS, NIMHANS will be the nodal authority, and they will connect themselves with the regional bodies, and this will help in giving tele-mental health system support for many people who are feeling deprived during the COVID time period. Then remember, the government has again created a system where they say there will be approximately 20,000 crore rupees which will be provisioned, 20,263 crore rupees for Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0, 20,263 crore rupees for Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0. This will cover most of the erstwhile ICDS. पहले ICDS इंटीग्रेटेड चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट सिस्टम में जो फंडिंग होती थी उसको ये ब्रॉडली कवर करेगा. पिछले साल उसके अंदर 19,400 करोड़ रुपीस का प्रोविजन था. लास्ट ईयर in 21-22 under ICDS program, this was the provision. This year under Poshan 2.0 and Saksham Anganwadi, that is to improve upon nutrition, health care for children, reduce wasting of children and reduce stunting of children. All this will be taking care of that. And in Poshan scheme, the government says, that is with respect to midday meal, the PM Poshan, 10,200 crore. So in PM Poshan, the government has provisioned 10,200 crore rupees, which is same as the one provisioned under midday meal scheme, midday meal scheme last year. So the one provisioned under midday meal scheme last year, similar has been provisioned under PM Poshan scheme this year, same type of provisioning being done. So this is in healthcare that the government is working on. And then the government has actually, it is PM Poshan, Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti for pregnant women and lactating women. So PM Poshan, Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti brought together. PM Poshan, Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti brought together 10,200 crore for PM Poshan and around 1,400 crore for Mission Vatsalya and 2,800 crore for Mission Shakti. Around 3,100 crore for Mission Shakti. So they have all been brought together on this. Again, you don't have to remember the numbers, इसीलिए मैं उतना लिख नहीं रहा, but इनको ध्यान में रखो कि एक है ICDS को replace करता हुआ Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0 and another is PM Poshan, along with it the scheme with respect to Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti. So PM Poshan, Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti. Mission Shakti is for women, of course. 3184 crore rupees for this. You can keep 3100 crore in mind. And for Vatsalya, it is around 1400 crore. But remember, overall, the expenditure of the government compared to last year has either remained stagnant or gone down. So in healthcare, the biggest challenge that we are facing is that we will need to improve upon this. इसको बढ़ाना पड़ेगा. नेशनल फैमिली हेल्थ सर्वे बार बार ये कहती है कि 2.5% होना चाहिए of GDP, the expenditure on healthcare. The National Family Health Survey always says that the expenditure on healthcare should be 2.5% of the GDP, while our expenditure on healthcare has not even gone beyond 1.5% of GDP, and this is one missing link. Another is lack of training facilities and lack of focus on developing that in a great scale. So this is again something on healthcare that we need to work upon. So overall, again, health and of course, last year there was 39,000, 40,000 crore rupees provisioned for COVID vaccination. That has been reduced to 5,000 crore this year. Last year, the government had provisioned approximately 40,000 crore rupees for COVID vaccination. This year, the government has reduced it to approximately 5,000 crore. Now see, infrastructure can include that, Mansi, online education mode. No, there is no particular talk on NEP as yet. But there are two different things, Nikhilesh, actually. National Health Database was the beginning point. Now they say that they are going further on it. Don't worry, Jyoti, you will need some background for yourself. Otherwise, it is a problem. Don't worry at all. Maybe your economics background is a little weak, but whatever you are taking, just note them down and you can always reach me. I'm at Next IAS. Come over. I am always willing to hold the hand of my students. तो जिसे भी डाउट है, कोई दिक्कत है, Next IAS आओ और मुझसे पूछो. मुझे मजा आता है economics बोलने में वैसे भी. So Jyoti, don't worry at all. First session it creates a problem, plus maybe no background of economics. All right. Now, no, they will be replacing them in the longer run, Ujjwal. Yes, it includes state government expenditure also, Anurag. Now remember, the government has created some more, points for, or some more points we can add for inclusive growth. So another one we can talk about is provision of rupees 60,000 crore, which is 33% more than last year, for Har Ghar Nal Se Jal. That is another thing that is mainly going to help the rural areas. And remember, it has two major benefits. If you ask me about this expenditure, the benefits of such expenditure is one, of course, clean and accessible water supply. So reduces waterborne diseases and all. And second is employment generation, because you will need people to develop these projects. So such projects are welcome, no doubt. Another one similarly is same aspect, same two benefits apply here. Same second benefit applies here. Pradhan Mantri Avas Yojana, where the budget has provisioned 48,000 crore rupees to develop 80 lakh houses. The budget has provisioned 48 crore rupees to 48,000 crore rupees to develop 80 lakh houses. Again, it gives the benefit of residence, shelter for the households, and increases economic activity, more demand for cement, more demand for bricks, more demand for steel, and all that will pick up the economic activity. So increases economic activity, things like cement, steel, and then plus employment to construct these houses. So they are inclusive as well as propelling the economy. एक तो ये inclusive है, दूसरा economy को अच्छा propulsion देते हैं. तो ये दोनों ही फायदे हैं इसके अंदर. Another is of course that they have announced, that is PM Divine, that is the devoted program for development of Northeast to fund infrastructure and social development based on felt needs in Northeast. That is another thing that has been announced. PM Divine. So to fulfill felt need of infrastructure in Northeast. The good thing here is the government says that the central government departments can also give their suggestions, but normally the suggestion of the local bodies and the state government will be given more importance. So central government departments can give their suggestion, but the suggestion of the local bodies and other state departments will be given more importance. That is what they suggest here. All right, that is what they suggest here per se. Now when you look at it, हाँ उसके अलावा है आयुषी, बिल्कुल, perfect, good to see you here, Abhishek. 10,200 for Poshan, Ashish, not Poshan 2.0. All right. No, you don't have to remember all the data, Shubhi. Just keep a trend in your mind. Apart from that, there are some other good things that they have done for financial inclusion. To this, you can add one more point if you want. I can give you that from exams point of view. You can keep it in your mind that apart from these, another very important point for inclusion is aspirational blocks. So under aspirational districts, many districts have done well, as the finance minister said, and she says that now those blocks which are in these districts which have not been able to do well, we will target those also. So aspirational blocks program, that if a particular block has not been able to do well in a district, we will target those also. And then there are 2-3 good things that they have done for financial inclusion. There are 2-3 good things that they have done for financial inclusion. That when it comes to financial inclusion, that is another good thing that they have done. Financial inclusion. Yeah. एक बार इसको वापस लाओगे करण. Financial inclusion. For example, the linking of post offices. और इस पेज को आगे बढ़ा देना. The linking of post offices. So that is for financial inclusion. Linking of post offices. So that is for financial inclusion. So that is another step towards inclusion, that is linking of post offices. So there are steps taken for financial inclusion. There are steps taken for financial inclusion. First is linking post office banks, and remember ये ब्रिटिशर्स के समय से और उसके थोड़े बाद से पोस्ट ऑफिस बैंक्स आते जा रहे थे, बट इनको अब कोर बैंकिंग सॉल्यूशन में लिंक कर दिया. सो लिंकिंग पोस्ट ऑफिस बैंक्स, all of them 100% with core banking solutions. This is a very good step again, which will allow shifting funds smoothly from post office deposits to banks. And the reports suggest that State Bank of India, ICICI and HDFC these are systemically important banks. They can gain by offering integrated services to post office depositors. Government has allowed them that these banks are called domestically systemic important banks. सरकार कहती है इन बैंक्स को हम नहीं फेल होने देंगे. So domestically systemic important banks, and they can gain by offering integrated services to post office depositors. तो core banking solution मतलब आप post office में रह के डेबिट कार्ड, क्रेडिट कार्ड, अपना बैंक ट्रांसफर, डिजिटल ट्रांसफर, ये सारी बातें अचीव कर सकते हो. And then other than that, the other thing they have done is that the second very important thing for financial inclusion, 75 branches, digital branches, that is, so 75 digital branches or banks in 75 districts. So this will help in remote area banking, that those areas which are physically very difficult to attain. So remote area banking, and people will again get the method. Remember, digital banking will mean you don't need a physical structure. आपको कोई बैंक का ब्रांच इस्टेब्लिश नहीं करना, वहाँ अथॉरिटीज नहीं रखने, आप डिजिटली लोगों तक रीच आउट करो. एंड देयर विल बी 75 डिजिटल बैंक्स entirely in 75 districts to cover for maximum number of individuals, and this all will lead to, has the potential to lead to a lot of financial inclusion. This has a huge potential to lead to financial inclusion. People can be included in Jan Dhan Yojana, people can be included with Kisan credit card, people can be included with overdraft facilities. So these have all the benefits that you can provision. Now remember, again the missing link is lack of proper program to keep hand-holding the poor who are still coming out of poverty, who are still coming out of the shocks of COVID. So the demand side links are missing. There could have been some program for some subsidy given to the poor for food, some extra subsidy that could have been given, like an urban employment guarantee provision that could have been planned, or planning an employment guarantee provision for skilled unemployed. These things should be developed now in India. We have large number of people who are unskilled. So if you ask me, about the missing link on these programs again. So missing link on inclusion, one, lack of provision or support for people who are not below poverty line but have been ravaged by pandemic. ये गरीबी रेखा के नीचे नहीं है, लेकिन पैंडेमिक ने इनकी हालत खराब कर दी, नौकरी नहीं साल भर से या 6 महीने से, खाने को ठीक से नहीं हो रहा, उनके लिए प्रोविजन करना जरूरी है. This was one missing link. Second, lack of announcement on urban employment guarantee program. This we could have done this budget. Another, lack of focus to increase women's workforce participation. The workforce participation of women is very low in India, and we need to make sure that we have some focus to increase women's workforce participation, the labor force participation rather. That is, women, more and more women in the labor force. We will need that to a great extent. And another missing link is lack of long-term program. Like, government is assuming that the expenditure they are doing for infrastructure will reach the poor, but long-term program to envision hunger-free India. With state governments, the central government can come together and think about it. We are assuming that all this Poshan scheme and ICDS scheme can reach out to the poors, but at the moment we see that the public distribution system is also not able to reach out to all the poors. So there has to be a long-term program drawn up to make India hunger-free as soon as possible. So this is how you can talk about inclusive growth. So today's session I will end here. I will meet you on Monday for one last session on budget, which will be covering on the macroeconomic parameters. Taxation policy क्या रही, subsidy policy क्या है, fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit का क्या relevance है, public expenditure जो कर रहे हैं उससे फायदा होगा या नहीं, central bank digital currency का क्या role होगा और कैसे सरकार ला रही है, जो टैक्स लगा रहे हैं क्रिप्टो करेंसी पे उससे क्या होगा. सो ऑल दीज टॉक्स ऑन टैक्सेशन ऑन क्रिप्टो करेंसी, सेंट्रल बैंक डिजिटल करेंसी, overall taxation policy of the government, subsidy of the government, where does the maximum money come from and where does maximum money go to, all these discussions we will do on budget. One more day on Monday. I will see you at 7 o'clock Monday evening, and 1.5 hours is what I think it will take us. By 8:30 you guys can be free. Great to be with all of you. Actually I would keep coming up, and economic survey lectures will start after that. After I am done with the budget lectures, I will start economic survey lectures. We will try keeping live sessions for those also. Thank you. Have a great evening. Good night all of you, and please be there. Your support matters a lot. If you have any doubt, feel free to contact me at Next IAS. Even if you are not a student enrolled at Next IAS, I consider all of you as my students. तो ये भी चिंता मत करो कि जाएंगे कहीं सर मना ना कर दें. मैं किसी को मना नहीं करता. आप फ्री होके आ सकते हो. ये Next IAS का कल्चर बनाया है हमने. हम किसी को भी मना नहीं करते. आप आके पूछो, डाउट्स जरूर बताएंगे. थैंक यू. ग्रेट इवनिंग. बाय बाय. गुड नाइट. बट जरूर टाइम ले लेना मुझसे आने से पहले. Thanks a lot. Good night. Thank you all. Your names are flipping up very quickly, but thanks a lot. Indirect tax is also linked to budget only, Shubham. Thanks a lot, Vikash. Means a lot. Thank you. Good night. Okay, Ankit. I'll look into it surely. Thank you all. Thank you. It means a lot. All these thank yous that you give me 10 times more strength to just keep going. So thank you for doing this. Thank you. Good night. Good night all of you. पोस्ट ऑफिस सेविंग्स बैंक होते हैं आयुषी, जहां लोग पोस्ट ऑफिसेज में पैसा जमा करते हैं. द फर्स्ट पॉइंट इज दैट यू सेट अप द लिंक बिटवीन पोस्ट ऑफिस सेविंग्स बैंक एंड the scheduled commercial banks, so that you are able to reach out much better and connect much better. Good night. Good night all of you. Your messages are flipping very fast, you know, but thanks a lot. Good night. Thank you, Hero Villain. Very interesting name. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Surely, Vivek. I will. I will. Since you insist, I will surely look into that. Environmental upgradation, I will give you an insight on Monday, Naveen. It's a 5 minutes thing. I've already told you many things, but 5 minutes thing. Yes, exit can be hurtful, Marshall. You are no doubt. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for, Basima, sorry, the previous slides, the board is a little dysfunctional at the moment. Previous slides will be a little difficult. You can again watch the lecture on YouTube, Basima. So good night and thank you. Love you too. I am actually, someone who gets moved by all of you. Environmental upgradation, we will surely talk. Don't worry at all. Good night. Thank you. You can contact me at Next IAS. I will be doing sessions on economic survey, Rahul. There will be 7-8 sessions on economic survey. Rudra, I miss you all too. Thank you. Good night. So I'm signing off then. I hope Vibrant village is connected to it. Yes, it is connected to northern villages. Vibrant villages is connected to northern villages actually, not northeast. Ayushi. Well, at the moment, the number is around 23%, Princey. Okay, Nishant, done. I will come more often live. Thank you all. So I'm now signing off. I hope we can have, you had some benefits here, and I will see you on Monday evening, and we will complete all this discussion. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you on Monday. I'm signing off. Thank you.